Combat is a large portion of a lot of different TTRPGs, and it's not surprising as why. A lot of the games got their start in wargaming, and not only that, we're all a bunch of nerds who like to strategize. Let's be honest, we really like rolling dice and seeing big numbers and doing big damage.
That's a lot of damage!
I know that's kind of simple, but it's also true. However, there has been a large discontentment with a lot of TTRPGs that I've seen when it comes to balancing the narrative and the combat. And I don't think it's that difficult. You just have to take in the whole picture. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of the complaints that I've seen come from specifically D&D 5th edition. That's no surprise to anybody. A lot of people try and make D&D 5e anything they want it to be when it's really only meant for a specific type of story. But I've seen the same complaints with Pathfinder 2, as well as Lancer, and some Fates that basically it's not that uncommon. Making a combat narratively interesting is not an easy thing to do with many systems, but all you have to do is keep a few different things in mind. So let's talk about that. It's very important to keep an eye on this kind of stuff when running a group that really likes the story of things. A lot of the times people will get annoyed because their character sheet says they can do one thing, but they really want to do another. Yes, the person in front of you is possessed, and I really want to try and pour my soul and heart out to them. I will not fight them. I want them to fight through their possession because I am attempting to help them with this.
Then finish it. Because I'm with you to the end of the line.
But the mechanics say they have to roll a certain DC, and well, this is the barbarian we're talking about, and they have a negative charisma, so fighting that possession is almost impossible for them. So no matter how much I want to try and narratively lean into this combat moment, the game mechanics just won't allow it to happen. And frankly, that's disappointing and really boring. So what do? Well, a lot of the Powered by the Apocalypse systems are really good at this sort of thing. One of the things that they do is they will allow rolls for things, and when you roll, you have a success level. If you roll a certain amount, you just fail. If you roll a little bit above that, you succeed, but a large failure happens. So on, so on, so on, to the point where you could succeed and do more than you originally intended to. This is a great system, but very, well, mathy. If you're trying to give the players a bunch of different DCs, it can really bog down the game, so here's what I do. At one point in one of my recent sessions, I had a character die. I was straight up. They were stabbed and killed with a weapon that should have just simply absorbed their soul, eaten it, and they were gone. However, I didn't like that. It felt boring and really took away a lot of the fun of the campaign. I still wanted this to be a serious moment. I still wanted them to even die, necessarily. Now, I didn't want them to die, but I still wanted that stake to be there and for that to be an outcome that could happen. And so instead, I played into something different. This was a warlock of the patron of the undead, and part of the story was that they had an army of ghosts living inside of them. So I instead described the sword eating all these souls, beginning to suck it into them. And this was something that was very important to the player. They loved this army of ghosts. They considered it their family. But I described it as these ghosts intentionally going forward and sacrificing themselves. And I then left it up to the player to decide if they wanted to make a roll to try and change this outcome. Would they simply allow these ghosts to do this? Or did they want to die themselves? And then I let it happen. See, it's interesting because a lot of the times in TTRPGs, the best thing to do is just allow the player to succeed, no matter what happens. This is something your character could do. I will allow you to do it. However, we're gonna roll, and if you roll badly, if you don't make the DC, something serious will happen. A lot of the times, outlining the consequences outright makes it even more narratively impactful. Yes, I will allow you to attempt to take away this very powerful weapon from the enemy. However, if you fail, they are going to get a free attack on you. Something very important and fun. And the funny thing is you could still allow them to just succeed. If they don't hit the DC, they still get the sword, but now the enemy's going to turn and take a free attack on them. A free turn, if you will. Now that's a very out there outcome, and I'm not saying to do something quite that specific and that action economy breaking, but the point is allowing players to simply succeed on rolls in combat, but adding consequences if they can't meet the DC can be a lot more impactful. It encourages them to take more risks, do more creative things, and that's kind of the point. Many systems are outlined to only allow your character to do specific things that would outline their archetype. If you are a fighter, you will fight. If you are a magic caster, you cast magic. That's how it works. But allowing them to break outside those molds at the cost of a narrative consequence is fun. I've done it many times in my campaign, and never once have I really felt that it was a bad decision to make, just as long as the consequence felt weighty enough for the action, and that is important. If an enemy is based solely around having this very powerful artifact and somebody just wants to take the artifact from them, if I don't outline a very important consequence, basically what I've told them was, hey, this combat never mattered in the first place. Yeah, no, you can go ahead and just take the weapon and then whatever, sure. Nothing was ever that serious. So the consequence must be that severe. I could let them know, you can take this weapon, but this weapon is magical, a powerful artifact, and sentient, and you may become possessed by it. So I'm going to have you make a roll. Now, when trying to do this kind of stuff in combat, it's difficult if you don't have a good representation of what's happening on the board. People have to understand what's happening in order to take those risks, which brings us to today's sponsor, Geektake. Geektake Games is an incredible TTRPG company that focuses specifically on allowing you to have easily carryable minis, such as these. These are their two-dimensional miniatures, and they're actually incredible. I have such a hard time actually bringing my minis because most of the time I don't play at my house. I go out to other people's houses and we play there. And having something to carry all the minis is not always feasible and becomes incredibly difficult. Enter Geektake. Geektake has a variety of miniatures which you can use for pretty much any kind of encounter. Anything that you need, you can find. And these things are incredible. Not only that, they come with easily replaceable bases, meaning you can take them out, put them back in your simple storage in the resealable pouches that they come in, and you can always have tons of miniatures at any moment. I can't count the amount of times that I needed a ton of minis for a battle, and I just wasn't able to bring them all, and I ended up having to use dice to represent them. No longer is that an issue with these. Not only that, they're incredibly high quality and the art is so cute and amazing. I absolutely love it. If you want to give them your support, and by proxy, my channel your support, please go check the link in the description and tell them that I sent you. I hope you guys have a wonderful time with these minis. But anyways, back to combat. Now, I can already hear a lot of people in the comments crying and yelling about this, saying that this is ridiculous. You shouldn't just let players do whatever they want all the time. And you know what? That's fair. So don't. What you can do is you can simply use your own simple reasoning with this method. Take a look at what the player is doing and actually consider if it would be realistic in the story. Yes, I want the players to just do what they want to be able to do to be the heroes, but if it's going to break the pre-established rules of the universe, not the mechanics, the universe, then the answer is probably no. Yes, I want the magic caster to be able to cast their super cool spell in a unique way. But if they're going to say, I would like to cast Create Water in the lungs of the creature in front of me, well, that breaks the rules of the universe. Because if the spell could do that, then the spell would be made to do that. People would be casting that spell all the time. So world building wise, I have to consider why doesn't anybody? Well, probably because using the spell in that manner is not possible. It's a much higher level spell that would allow you to drown somebody like that. Using common sense and reasoning and pre-established rules of your universe to allow when the players can and cannot break the mechanics is not easy to do. And I'm not pretending that it is. But if you feel confident as a dungeon master and a game master to allow this sort of stuff to happen in your game, it becomes so much more interesting for the players. No longer do they get frustrated because there's only a certain amount of things on their character sheet. It's like the world is their oyster. And suddenly, all of the battles become much more narratively focused because people are focusing on what they can do, how they can influence the enemy, what interesting things can they do, and can they overcome their own weaknesses. It opens up a wide array of new possibilities, which is so much more interesting, so much more fascinating, and frankly, I think a lot more fun. I really enjoy playing this way, and I'm going to encourage anybody who has the confidence as a dungeon master to feel like they know what will and will not be broken to allow this to happen and allow those consequences to be there. The other thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the times when I present those consequences, players will sometimes back down from the decision. They'll say, hey, I would like to do this really out there thing that technically wouldn't be allowed by the rules. I present the consequence and they go, I don't think that's worth it. I'm just going to take my turn. I also think that is a decent outcome from the entire thing, because what it means is that they were willing to take a look at it and say, I don't think this risk is worth it, but I know I can do it if it becomes necessary. And I think that's much more interesting and fascinating. So please try this out. Let me know how it works in your games, because I really think it can work across a variety of TTRPGs, so long as you use your common sense and feel confident in your ability to run your game. If you want to hear more stuff like this, I have some videos right here that you could go watch, and I really appreciate you watching this one. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense. Apparently, if I actually ask you guys to do that, the number does go up more. So as annoying as it is, it's apparently effective. So please do so, and I'll stop asking so much. Anyways, thanks for watching. Go out into the world, make it your own.